You are listening to the sounds of the Right On Network.
Hello and welcome to episode 33 of On the Record Jams, brought to you by the Right On Network. I'm AJ.
And I'm Arthur.
And on this episode of On the Record Jams, we're bringing on the record Janet Jackson's Miss You Much. What year did this one come out, Arthur?
This is 89.
Ooh.
89.
1989. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, when we're having these discussions out in the world and we talk about decades, yeah, we get it. But Arthur, I think the two of us, we've talked about a lot. Within that decade, there's eras going on. So 1983 is going to be different than 1989.
Yes, very much so.
So before we move on with this Janet Jackson greatness, I want to talk about some other greatness going on. And that's the people that are going to patreon.com/Right On Network. They're the reason why this here feed and podcast exists. And I want to start out by thanking Alan Wright. He's Bold Outlaw, boldoutlaw.com. Check him out on Straight Out of Federation of Blake 7 podcast. Delvin Sims, he's known as DJ Merc or Merc Bandwidth. He's the founder of the Right On Network. Listen to his music. Go to the music platforms and support Merc Bandwidth. The podcrasher himself, Tim Price. We have friend of the Right On Network, Cluck Trent, Mark Blair, Paul Hicks over in Australia. Hello, Paul. Laurel Phillips. At the Fire and Water Podcast Network, we have the Irredeemable Shag. Go to Firewater Podcast Network. They got things on movies, TV shows, comics, music, you name it. Justin Steiner, he's Shoot Fly Pie on Substack. Justin Steiner. Rick from Jeff and Rick Present Unpacking the Power of Power Pack. Chris Pine 1. Chris Pine 1. Check him out on this feed as we talk about 30 Minutes to Get Back. Dissecting the Beatles documentary, 30 minutes at a time. 30 Minutes to Get Back. That's Chris Pine 1. Bill Beer of the Bat Pod. April 5K over on the Manhattan Project talking about Friends and Seinfeld. The great Jordan Holt and Clinton Robeson of Fan Film Fridays and Coffee and Comics. And if you want to watch me do an unboxing, go to patreon.com/Right On Network. We got some freebies on there. And then if you want to see even more, sign up for as little as $1 a month. That's less than a stale, cold cup of coffee. Right On Network. Patreon.com/Right On Network. Okay, so Arthur, we have here Miss You Much on the Rhythm Nation album. Okay, so for Janet Jackson, this is album number what for her at this time?
This is album number 4. This is the follow-up to the Ridiculous Control album. That, like I always say, printed money, sold like hotcakes, whatever you want to call it. Like it worked and people are all over it. And she had hits, she had the iconic, crazy, great videos, and then it was time to create the next album. And she wanted to further assert herself. She wanted to further separate herself and be her own thing. So let's zoom out a little bit from the Jackson family standpoint. And you think, well, Off the Wall is late 70s, early 80s. The Triumph album from the Jacksons came out. Thriller is 82. And Victory is, I believe, 84. And so still trying to do her own thing, but also giving her a seat at the table to shape the sound, shape the content of the album. And of course, that's how she ends up, no pun intended, taking control of her career and her life and doing her own thing. But you know how that works, right? You have the hit album and it's like, well, great. You're the Jackson family little sister. You got one hit album after 2 albums that didn't hit. Let's see what you do now. What are you going to do now? And she did a Hold My Beer and came back with Rhythm Nation.
Wow. And she went from, okay, I am on this third album, Control, I'm a woman, to bam, Rhythm Nation, I'm the woman. And Arthur, I gotta tell you, so guys, full disclosure, I knew this about myself already, but like I'm noticing with comics and music, the 80s, it's a blind spot for me. Like it's not like I've never heard of Rhythm Nation before or Janet Jackson, but like on my personal playlist that of things I've purchased, I don't really have 80s stuff. I do have Thriller, the physical copy, the record. I got that after the fact, maybe like 5 years ago at a thrift store. But I don't really have 80s stuff in any genre. So listening to this was, a trip down memory lane plus like an education. And one thing that I learned, the sounds, we're going to talk about that's on this Rhythm Nation and Control, but specifically this Rhythm Nation and specifically this song, Miss You Much. The sounds, the beats, the incidental music that's just going on within this one record, Miss You Much, it had the television and radio world in a chokehold. And what I mean by that, as far as like, okay, we're a television show or whatever, we're going to break, we're playing bump music. These sounds were made in the 90s. I don't know why, like I'm thinking about Martin, but just anything or people achieving to reach this, but no, not hitting nowhere near the mark. So it's subpar, but it would end up in some Tang commercial or a commercial selling some kids some toys. Just this music, you heard it for 2 decades. Just you listen to the radio and they're playing like all this sound like, hey, okay, tune in to Wolfman Jack, he's coming on. And you would hear these sounds, these noises, this background music, this soundtrack to several eras. And let's talk about this. I think it's all coming from this production where it's like, man, this is changing things, because I keep saying this to myself and I didn't know what this meant back then, but I think I even thought it at the time. This seems very industrial revolution and the future at the same time music. We'll talk about it more.
Yeah, I can get with that all the way. I mean, Jimmy Jam has been amazing as it relates to him doing interviews now, right? Like he's gotten his flowers so many different times because somebody figured out, man, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis have a bunch of jamming songs. And they've done the long form podcast, especially Jimmy. And man, he's telling these stories. He's giving us the deal of how he ended up with Janet anyway. We've heard the story of the follow up and the challenges. Janet herself has done some documentaries over the last few years that you could get your eyes on. And like, man, yeah, they were really, I don't know if they knew for sure they were doing it, like setting these examples, setting these templates. But, the way I like to describe it is like you go back and look and you say Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were members of The Time. The Time was the band, one of Prince's bands, right? Like Prince was becoming this thing and he had a whole conglomerate of artists around him, and The Time was one of those. And Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were also producers. And Prince wasn't a big fan of that, right? Like Prince is like, hey man, we got this sound going. We're trying to run things. We're in Minneapolis. Let's do it like this. But, people will say it then and now that Prince was a very demanding leader or ringleader or whatever you want to call him. So he really wanted to have more control over who produced what and when. And Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were like, man, hey, we got to do our thing, dude. Like, we got to produce, you know, these songs. And they had what now qualifies as a lot of the unk music and the barbecue music and all of that. And they were doing stuff with Climax and SOS Band. And it's like, okay, um, Cheryl Lynn, like they were there, like early 80s, 82, 83. But those guys, recording music with SOS Band, they missed a gig for the time and they got tossed. Prince was like, hey, I told you guys I didn't want you working with other people, and now you missed a gig. We don't play this over here. You guys are out. Like, you guys are done. And they had to figure out what they were going to do. And they were producing jams after that. So they had stuff, They had their artists, they had their SOS band, they still had Climax, they had Sherelle, which again is that Unk barbecue music stuff that people know about, Saturday Love and all of those good things. Well, Alexander O'Neal was supposed to be the lead singer of the time, but he wanted too much money, so Prince didn't take him. So when Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis needed another vehicle, they used him as well. So Alexander O'Neal, if you know about him, man, he's capable. He's a good singer. He makes jams. But man, when you look back at it now, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, they kind of needed a really serious, heavy-handed vehicle for what they were trying to do with their version of the Minneapolis sound. And at the same time, you have Janet trying to break out on her own, all that stuff, firing Joe Jackson, her dad as the manager, trying to get this thing off the ground. She wanted to go to college, man. She wasn't worried about singing. She did the acting thing a little bit. We all saw her,
It was great.
She was on Fame before that. She was on Good Times. Like we know Janet, right? We knew Janet before we knew Janet. Even with
Exactly.
the Jacksons having the variety show, and she's like the little sister with the attitude and all that. Like we knew her, but we didn't know her. And
Mm-mm.
Control was the coming out party, and it was like an amazing situation. We spent a lot of time talking about hip hop producers and rappers getting together, making these mega come together albums. But this, like Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, and Janet, is that for that genre of music. And people saw it and people paid attention to it. And it was like land of the misfit toys, man. And it all worked out. And before it knew it, it was like they were doing their own thing, and their thing became the thing because everybody was trying to get in on it from Control on.
So can you explain how can you explain the Minneapolis sound?
Well, there was one thing, again, this is from these podcasts that we've been lucky enough to have because Jimmy Jam has been talking so much and he loves the long form. He
Hmm.
loves answering the nerdy questions. He loves explaining what equipment he used, the arguments around the stuff. He's willing to make fun of himself. He's got so much humility. He's a wonderful interview. But the Minneapolis sound is just, yeah, like we talked about this before. Like you get these hubs of talent, right? Like Detroit and Motown. Later on in the 90s, we had the rappers, right, from certain places. We had the New York sound and the rappers in the different boroughs. We had the West Coast sound with the different California guys. And even that had different branches. Like you go to Vallejo and Oakland, and all those different folks had their little sound. And well, Minneapolis had that sound, and the ringleader leader of that was Prince. And so he had all these different outfits around him and all these different groups, and they were basically trying to take over Minneapolis. Well, something else too, 60s, 70s, even into the 80s, is this whole live show thing. And I don't know how much we've talked about that, but man, you hear a lot about it. Like a lot of these bands and these acts, man, they would play clubs. Like they would get good playing live music. It wasn't like everybody was getting record contracts. Like you almost had to earn a record contract. Playing live, being a cover band, figuring out your sound, figuring out what you're going to do, being bad, going to battle of the band and winning a few weeks. And then somebody shows up in your town and like beats you in your town at your talent contest. Like all those different things were going down. So in Minneapolis, you just had this heat of, man, people trying to get there and people there trying to get out of there. And so a big reason is why Prince was really trying to control things because he started slow too. Prince, Purple Rain was 85. Prince had albums in the 70s, So it's like this guy was it. I think people really struggle when people hit huge. You think, hey, these people were huge the whole time. But no, man, there's rehearsals, there's trying to get signed, then there's getting signed, and then there's just kind of that wasting away. Like Thriller isn't Michael Jackson's first album. Purple Rain isn't Prince's first album. And Janet, again, she had two albums that had hit songs on them, but those albums as a whole didn't sell really well. So That Minneapolis sound came kind of out of that universe. And when people would splinter off, you get different versions of it. Because Prince had his thing, which some people would call like a punk, rock, funk type of thing. And we'll get into that into a later episode if you've seen the song list I got coming up for us. But yeah, man, like Prince started hitting and started becoming a thing. And again, he was so controlling. He was like, hey, I don't want my sound leaking outside of my little group. So we can't have people here, there, and everywhere giving all these people our sound because it's our local thing and we wanted to keep it local. So we seen that in hip hop all the time, right? So rappers be like, well, this is our West Coast thing, and now we got to do our West Coast rapping, and the East Coast guys have their stuff, and then eventually the South guys had their like, well, the South's got something to say. We're doing our stuff. Don't steal our stuff. And then in Miami, the guys were doing something completely different, and they were like, we don't care if you steal our stuff or not because you can't do it better than us. Well, that same energy was happening with R&B and pop and punk rock and funk and all of that. That was like music was very local. Like the Too Long Didn't Read of that is like a lot of music then was super local and people were coming up with their own sounds.
So these sounds and like the production on these drums on here, was someone who was in the know went, whoa, that's Minneapolis sound. Acquire this and Janet Jackson is the vocals on it.
I think for Control, yes. So this
Okay.
is 86. When you got to 89, Jimmy Jam and them, man, those guys had a list of jams by that time. And they were trying to branch out and almost prove that they weren't just babies of Minneapolis. They weren't coming out there sounding like the records that Prince was making around that time. And again, now we're putting stuff in perspective. Thriller is 82, Purple Rain is 85, Control is 86, Rhythm Nation is 89. By the time we get to 89, Prince is kind of like around that Bat Dance sound, the Batman
Yep.
soundtrack time,
Yes.
Graffiti Bridge, which depending on who you ask, Purple Rain too. Like Love Sexy, like if you remember Alphabet Street and all that, and there's some rapping on Alphabet Street, but it's not going the same way. Those drums aren't the same. That sound isn't as industrial as what
Yes.
Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are doing. So Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, like they're using hip hop equipment, but they still got those raindrops coming for you on those ballads, right? So it's like they're
Mm-hmm.
they're doing it all, and they're really spreading their wings as producers, man. So if you look at the list of stuff they did in the late 90s, not even counting this Janet Jackson album, which you have to because it's insane, but like, yeah, it's the good new edition, grown up new edition stuff before they broke up for a while. Like that's a lot of what they're doing. The Ralph Tresvant solo album stuff, the Johnny Gill stuff, like man, like they really were in it in the late 80s, early 90s. So I think they were just really trying to put it all together, right? They're putting the band stuff together with the hip hop equipment, like you're doing hip hop drums with 1985 Minneapolis funk thrown in the middle of it and trying to make it all work. So it was such a wild thing. And I know we talked about it before we hit record. Like people heard it and they either wanted some of it because they wanted Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis to come slide on their records and make them jamming too, because there was some, hate on Janet to look at it like, well, these guys just laced you up with all these jams. Now we can come over here and do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good luck. Some of those people, it was some great singers that they worked with in the early 90s and late 80s. But man, Janet, you look at her stuff, she stood her own. You listen to these songs as an adult, like me and you talked about how much time we spent listening to Rhythm Nation and Control over the last month or so. And like, man, these vocals is killer, man. These ad libs is on, man. She's holding her own on these songs, man. This stuff is working. And it ain't just because of the quote unquote beats. It's all coming together. And Jimmy Jam talks a lot about how Janet contribute to the vocals and the sound and the topics, like literally them hanging out together and not recording. and just talking to Janet and understanding who she is, and then using that information to write songs, and then putting her in the mix to say, this is kind of what we wanted to make a song about based on what you were talking about. We were over at the park walking around, feeding the birds or whatever. Like, we came back to the studio, sent you to the house, and we started working on these songs. And then she comes in and finishes, adds lyrics, says, okay, well, that's what I was saying, but I didn't really mean it like that. I really meant this. So you get like this collaboration thing. And so you can imagine from a Janet standpoint, she had an opportunity to be like, man, I get to say what I want to say on the record. I'm not just reading off lyrics. Okay, well, let me say what I want to say then. Let's do this.
So this is wonderful because this is what I was gathering when we were preparing for the show and some of the things that you were telling me. So, let's say like this high school kid, they get drafted to go to a college and their alignment in a particular program and a particular system. But then that coaching staff, they leave and another coaching staff comes and it's like, well, we do something different and you're not really a cog that fits in this clockwork. So it's like, oh, well, I'm stuck. So it's like, okay, how can we put you in a position to be successful? And that's where great management comes in. That's when great coaching and definitely what we're seeing here, great producing. And as you were saying, like, hey, I listened to Janet's first two albums. Hey, this is jamming. But people were kind of passing her up or like, I don't want to re-up on a contract with her. It's just like how some people, they pass on Nas. They're like, well, eh. And then they said Russell Simmons was like, hey, he sounds like Cool G Rap. I don't need that right now. So it's like, so with the Janet Jackson, the earlier work, it's a lot going on there. It's like, okay, we're dusting off disco, but there's still like disco elements. We have Diana Ross, a big influence, like, but then like you're saying here, okay, I'm working with them and they're actually like, look, don't be generic. Give us like real input, like on your thoughts or like where you want to take a topic. So it's like, whoa, wait a minute. We're not going to pass up on Janet Jackson. There's talent here. What can we do to put her in positions to be very successful? And I'm like, boom, yeah, this works. And now it's like, okay, I'm Janet Jackson. I am woman. Boom. I'm Janet. I am woman. And it's like, all right, wow, great album title, Control. Bam, we come over here. It's Rhythm Nation, where I remember as a kid watching these videos and stuff. This was like superhero stuff. Like this
Oh,
was
100%.
huge. The music
Very
is
huge.
huge. The movement is huge. The video is huge. Like this is like, whoa.
Yeah, she's in black and white. She's got on the Rhythm Nation video, she's got like the military formation. Like, we're gonna create an army of jams because we're gonna tell you something else now. Like, Control was about me getting free, and now Rhythm Nation is about coming around and me trying to free you from what's bothering you and giving you the power to understand. Like, you need to be socially conscious. You need to get with it. Like, you need to come on and finish growing up like I'm trying to do. Like, but it doesn't have to be just me. Like, you can do it too. So, we talked about Bob Dylan before, and yeah, Janet cited him as a reference of like, hey, I want to get people's attention though, because I don't want to be preaching to the choir. Like, I want to build my whole, new group of people that also understand that we can do better and we don't have to take things at face value. Because look how it worked for me. I took control of my career. Now, you guys, whatever y'all are doing, you can take control of that.
This is a bold record. This Miss You Much. It's like it's quirky stuff going on in here. You got a middle eight section bridge. It's and it like you can't kind of like just walk past it. This demands your okay, I gotta stop what I'm doing. I have to about face and like, whoa, look at this. Like it's demanding attention.
100%. And it's a wild record, especially when you put it in the context of the Rhythm Nation album, because you could almost look at it like it's a socially conscious leaning record. Like, the
Yeah.
Rhythm Nation song itself even if you look at the track list, and I think listening to the album is really jarring because it's Rhythm Nation into State of the World into the knowledge,
Yeah.
and she's bringing it. Like she ain't messing around. Like she's talking heavy topics on this. And then there's an interlude that's like, "Hey, do y'all get it now? Like I'm serious now.
Yeah.
Let's dance." And then Miss You Much hits, and that thing comes in hard. I think like we were talking about this before, but maybe let's go in on it. Like them industrial drums, those hard drums, these are hard, these are really hard drums,
You can't ignore
especially for the
this.
80s.
Yeah.
And it's like it's yelling at you to get your attention. And it's almost like I could imagine being Janet and having a lot of pressure to think like, man, they giving me these hard tracks. These are hip hop inspired tracks when people are barely understanding what hip hop is. And she's thinking, how do I ride these songs? How do I come in? And she's got the soft ad libs and she's cooing, but then there's songs where she's singing super hard during the verse to get the point across. And Miss You Much was almost like a transition out of that hard message related stuff into kind of what people would consider more and more like straight up R&B. So for her to be able to pull that off on one album, because you know how it is. I mean, we can think about all the albums where people, if they start being socially conscious, you know what happens. They slap that one "Let's Quit Acting a Fool, Y'all" song at the end of the album. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Rappers do it all the time. You act a fool for 50 minutes and then get on the last song, like, you know what, guys? Maybe I should quit acting a fool, y'all. And then that next album come out, you're acting a fool again,
Still
right?
acting fool.
Still acting a fool. Or if you make the, you know what, guys, I'm really feeling like not acting a fool, y'all. I'm going to sing for 40 minutes about not acting up, y'all. I'm going to make a whole socially conscious album. Like, what's going on? Like these types of things. And for her to do that and still get the ballads in and still get the singles in or the hits in, because Miss You Much is one of her biggest hits.
This
Like
is
they were
I've had
waiting
so
for
many
her.
conversations with people about Miss You Much specifically these past
Wow.
2 weeks. Yeah. People name drop. Now, okay, I have a question. This is some ignorance on my part. Is Black Cat, do they take some variation of that in one of these like Monday Night Football entrances, themed intros? Am I
Uh,
conflating two different things?
you might be conflating, but it was something. So, okay, let's do this, right? Let's go back. And again, I hate
Okay.
to tie her to her brother, but there was something going on, right? Like that, these huge artists that started trying to be like the genre breaking artist. Well, we talked about Thriller before, where Mike was like, "Okay, I'm not just a disco artist. I'm not just an R&B singer, even though
Mm-hmm.
I'm those things too. Here goes this guitar solo, y'all. Like, because I'm gonna let you know I could do this too. Like anything you could do, I could do better, right? And I got the dance routines, and I got the genes of the Jackson family. Like, I'm 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 unbeatable. Like I'm a cheat code. I got it all. Well, after Thriller, Mike came out with Bad, and that was kind of more of the same. So there's a lot of guitar things going on, a lot of rock. So you think about how Janet influenced so many other people, but you know she had to be influenced by her brother too. Like the idea of trying to make a quote unquote big record and to try to make a record that you can't easily put in a box. So when I see it, you think about something like Black Cat, I view it in that way. Like she's still doing the rebellion because Control is a rebellion album. And again, Rhythm Nation is more like it doesn't have to be just me. Y'all can rebel too. And Black Cat is going like more hard in that direction than anything on Control. So it's like, okay, my brother's got guitar solos. I got guitar solos too. And then right after that, straight up hard ballads, like hard Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, like this is what I want. Like Lonely from this album. Like I don't know if it was like the biggest hit in the world, but it's like Lonely and Come Back to Me and like those songs, like I have to believe that Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, I can imagine they might not even have a great relationship with those songs. because those are the type of songs that you make and everybody comes to you and says, "Say, man, why don't you give me one of them? Come back to me's, man. I want to hear I want the raindrops in the production. If you give me a ballad and it don't got the raindrops in there, I'm walking out. I'm not paying you. You got to give me the raindrops, player." Because like them songs go so hard. And I think it's very interesting, like when an artist tries to make a something for everybody type of album, especially in the 80s, it's almost like, hey, we know we can't have a whole album filled with ballads, but when we get one, we're going to lean into it and we're going to try to make the hardest ballad. We're going to try to make the best ballad. And yeah, Rhythm Nation ends essentially with three ballads.
Yes, very interesting. Um, Again, to bring up a brother, I think on Thriller, the one song where it's like, oh, this is the ending, but it's not the ending.
Yeah, well, yeah. And then you get Lady in My Life as the closer of that album. And so it was almost like a thing that the family would say, okay, if we're going to have this ridiculous killer ballad, let's do it right at the end. And it wasn't just them, but there was other artists doing that too. Because if you think about Prince, and again, to bring all these people kind of together, who knows if they were doing it on purpose? Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But when Prince and the Revolution kind of stopped being a thing, that last thing they put together was Sign of the Times. And that's not even all the Revolution, but of course, it's all Prince. Well, the last song on that double album is Adore. And of course, that is, we went over that in the
Yes.
earlier episode. That is the insane, unbelievable, who's going to beat this ballad that Prince had to offer for that album. So maybe just that ballad as the closer, that's a thing that a lot of people were doing. Like, hey, I'm gonna kill y'all with this ballad and I'm gonna quit singing. I'm gonna get on out of here on this ballad. So it's a very interesting thing because in the 70s, a lot of artists started doing the thing where they would have all the up tempo on one side, because you're talking about from an LP format. One side would be up tempo, and then the second side, the other side, you flip it over, and it's all ballads.
So, okay, what's brilliant about this song, one of the many brilliant things is I'll tell your mama, I'll tell your friends, I'll tell anyone whose heart can comprehend, baby. Send it in a letter, baby. Tell you on the phone, I'm not the kind of girl who likes to be alone. I miss you much. Oh boy, I miss you much. This is vulnerability on a hard track. Those two like
Yes.
dichotomies going on. I just put that together like, oh yeah, this is brilliant. This is straight vulnerability on some hardcore drums. Just wow. It's very interesting.
Yes, aggressive vulnerability. Let's call it
Wow.
that, right?
Yeah, it's aggressive vulnerability.
Because listen, you think about how she comes into that second verse. She's like, I'm rushing home just as soon as I can. I'm rushing home to see your smiling face and feel your warm embrace. It makes me feel so good, good, good. And it's like, okay, if you just read that, you're like, okay, ain't that sweet? But then you listen to it and it's like, wait a minute, she didn't sing that in a sweet manner. And there's nothing about this music that sounds sweet. It's like,
Right.
but this is a very sweet message. But you're right. I like that they took the time to kind of play those games with each other, and play the games with the audience to say, okay, Janet's still coming in aggressive because this is supposed to be an aggressive album. So even on the let's get up and dance and let me talk about how in love I am with this dude I'm with, this is how I'm gonna deliver it. So it's just, man, the delivery on it, the decisions, those drums hitting so hard when the song first starts, like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis give themselves all of it. And
Mm-hmm.
then they have Janet kind of come in on it. Like they're gonna lay it down to make sure you know how hard this thing is before she even starts singing. And it's like, man, these are some cool decisions. Like this is like a really, really fun record.
So the production on this whole album, the production, I mean, specifically this record alone, this is guaranteeing everybody's eating and everyone's about to have long careers because it's like, hey, who did that? How did you do that? Who did that? you're going to get work.
Oh, 100%. Because if you wanted to make an up-tempo record, this is the record that you brought to Jimmy Jam and say, man, give me one of them Miss You Mustards, man. Like, let's get it, man. And, Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis probably just shaking their head like, dude, I don't want to give you one of those. That's not how we work. Like, we want to do our own thing. Like, we got some other stuff. But, like, man, the hip-hop of it, and then also, like, on that same album, like, All Right is super hip-hop. Like when you hear it now, like as a kid, it didn't pop in my head that like, oh, this is basically like a rap sounding record with a singer on it in 1989. Like that wasn't like what you just did. But you hear something like All Right, and you think to yourself again, to go back to Mike, it's very obvious that Mike heard Rhythm Nation and was like, I know what I'm doing for my next album.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm gonna do this. And I don't know who I'm doing it with, but I'm doing it. And I'm gonna make the most hip hop jam and stuff I can come up with because this is the sound. Like this is the sound of the next 10 years. And if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm gonna get left behind. So like you think about when did Dangerous come out? That's 91. So he had a long time to sit with Rhythm Nation and say, man, the way she's doing this, I got to get in on this. I got to get my drums, got to be hard. I got to get some rapping happening on my album. Like I gotta bring this. Like I gotta really hit this. So you think about Dangerous coming out 2 years later. You think about All Right, and then you think about Remember the Time. Come on now. Come on, think about how those records sound.
Yes.
There's no way. Like if like let's say now it's very commonly believed that the family was close enough to where when somebody was working on an album between the two of these, they would listen to each other's albums as they were finishing them up. Because we've talked about this all the time. This was back in the days where you would finish an album and it would come out like 5 months later. Like you
Right.
turn it into the label, you ride around with it, you play it for your family. They say, "Oh, I like that one. Oh, I don't know about that one." Like they didn't do all that. Like, man, this thing need one more song. Or the record label would say, "Man, this thing needs one more song. Man, we need one more hit, whatever." Right. So there's no way, right? Like whether Mike got this album played for him before it came out, or he got to hear it after it came out, there's no way he wasn't like bobbing his head and being like, "Oh, okay, I see what we're doing now. We got to get the pop and the R&B mixed in there with the hip hop. And yeah, I can get a guitar solo in and there, here and there, but I don't really need to be doing that on 5 songs now. I can do that on 1 or 2 songs. And what I got to get on 5 or 6 songs is I got to get this hip hop in here. Because you go look at that Dangerous track listing, it's like jam. The first song, like Heavy D, like like rapping, like jam, Black or White, like Black and White tried to do a little bit of both. You got the guitar driving the beat, but it's still very hip hop. You got raps, like it's there, man. And so it makes so much sense to think if you can inspire Michael Jackson, whether he's your brother or not, you must be doing something right. You got to be doing something right. So Rhythm Nation as a follow up to a hit album, it's almost just insane to think how well this went for them.
Wow. Wake up your weekend. Saturday morning starts here. Then at 9, adventures kick in high gear with Saturday mornings. Like that, I remember like little intros like that and like these attempts at making sounds that we hear on this album under it. I'm telling you, yeah,
Yep.
this these two albums had the industry in a chokehold from like TV promos, going to commercial bump music. I'm telling you, I heard this stuff. So when I was listening to these albums, I was like, oh shoot, yeah, this was Fox Kids Club. This was like they were making attempts to make these sounds.
Yes, I agree. I don't think I understood it at the time, but now it makes so much sense that people were trying to get in on this. Number one, these albums were hitting. Like they had a bunch of hit songs. like last
You
and
put it
number
on
one on the chart.
MTV,
It's on
you were going to bump
MTV.
into this.
Yeah, and Janet Jackson, she was you could tell what they were doing. And now this is where she was inspired too by the period of time and her brother, right? It's like, okay, I got these jamming songs, but like I gotta push these songs out into the world. I gotta try to make these iconic videos. And the Control album, like the look that she has is kind of all over the place. She probably has different directors on every video, but it seems like Rhythm Nation was a little bit more calculated. There's a lot more black and white on the videos. Even when the sound wasn't the same, you would get kind of that same black and white aesthetic, and they were driving it real hard. And so then when they had a video that did have color in it, they went real like bright and crazy with it for the contrast. And it's like, okay, they got time to be thinking about all this after they made these songs. Like how? Because like you think about that Escapade video, and we were talking about my wife and her having like English as her second language. So it's like by the time Rhythm Nation came out, she had already learned English. So like I can play this because I've been playing so much Janet. Like we're riding around, and yeah, I'm playing Escapade, and it's like I can't hold a conversation with her because she's singing the whole song.
Mm.
Like she loves that song, like it's in there. Like it's a part of her upbringing. Like these songs mean the world to her. And then even Control is like these are some of the songs that she learned English too. So it's like, man, like to hear the impact that this would have on somebody again. We talk about somebody that's like not even quote unquote in the culture. Like she didn't get it at the barbecue, she didn't get it at the house. It's just a part of it's a part of her listening to music as she's trying to just get more integrated into English and all those different things. But like those songs are so huge and so in the pocket with what was jamming at that time and creating new pockets. Like she's like, oh yeah, I was still listening to all these different things, but oh yeah, I know these songs. I know Escapade. I know um All Right. I know Miss You Much. Like I know these songs like back of my hand the whole time, like moving in the car style. Like she's dancing and singing in the car when these songs are on. So I'm talking about like now. Like I can't imagine what it was before, but I'm talking about 30 plus years later, that's still what happens when this music comes on.
You got to keep in mind too with Miss You Much and the production going on here, and then Rhythm Nation and the videos and what it looks like. We're also in Act 3 of the Cold War, and it's the West and the Soviet Union. And like think about like some of the imagery that's in these videos. And it's like, well, what if we gave you a third option? What if we gave you Rhythm Nation? So it's a lot of interesting ideas. This isn't made in a vacuum. World politics or whatever is going to be involved. And like these drums, this sound, we said industrial, it makes me think of this kind of stuff. Berlin, all that.
Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense because yeah, it's like it's a part of that period of time, but still creating, like you talk about, creating that future and giving people those templates, whether you're doing it on purpose or not. It's just like you do such a good job with what you're doing with the execution of the music. People are like, yeah, we got to get on this. We got to do this. How come we haven't been doing this? We got to do this now. Can we get Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis? Oh no, they're probably too expensive now. Oh, they're probably too busy. Okay, well, who can we get to replicate this and try to do this? And then again, as you listen to Prince's stuff in the late 80s and early 90s, he's trying to get the hip hop more involved in his music too. And it's like varying results. Like some of that Prince hip hop attempt stuff is like, hey man, why don't you stop doing that? That's not that's not that's not working for you the way it's working for Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Like I get it, y'all are all Minneapolis, but that don't mean everybody's doing the same thing the same way.
But they're from South Minneapolis. You from West Minneapolis.
The other side of the tracks, Minneapolis.
Yeah.
You got them North Minneapolis drums on your stuff. That ain't gonna work.
I hear they pronounce it Milwaukee. Nah, but yeah, so Miss You Much, Rhythm Nation, 1989, that wall comes down. When that wall comes down and you're exposed to Western music, what do you see? Boom, you're seeing Rhythm Nation. Boom, you're seeing Janet Jackson like in the all black. Like there's a like in the Control video, like she's doing a lot of like I'm wearing all black stuff.
Yeah,
That's a
and
statement
it's crazy
itself.
because it is black and white too. So you get that crazy, that stark, like you're saying, it's
Mm-hmm.
cold, and the music has some of that harsh industrial drum stuff going on. But then in the middle of that, this album also has "Love Will Never Do Without You" on it,
Yes.
and that's the video where she's like more softened up, and but the way she sings that hard too. But she's out there by the water or whatever, and she's got the jeans on and all that, and like, yeah, it's all that, man. It's just a good time. Like she just knocked this thing out of the park. And again, this is the follow-up to Control, with all the pressure of people saying, yeah, we don't want to admit that we got it wrong and we just sold you short. And you made a bunch of hits with Control, but can you do it again? Because I mean, maybe you just got laced up and all those beats are good, and anybody would have had a good album. And then they made a completely different great album.
And it's bigger.
Yes, bigger, better, faster, stronger, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, Electric Boogaloo Part Two,
Electric Boogaloo. Total Recall.
all
Wow,
of it.
yeah. Janet Jackson. So this is something where, I mean, this is iconic. There's going to be another topic that we talk about in the future where I think Janet Jackson and a couple of other people in the year 2026 are going to get this reevaluation, reappreciation, coronation flowers tour thing, because you got like several generations that really haven't grown up with Janet like that. And I think this reintroduction are going to make people go, whoa, like, oh, okay. Where people do a good job of explaining, hey, the landscape was like this. And then this Rhythm Nation came out, this Miss You Much came out, and then the landscape ended up like that. And when that gets explained well and all this stuff, people are like, oh, and then boom, in the 90s, she had a whole nother other flourishing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's do some number soup, right? It's like, man, 7 top 10 hits from Rhythm Nation 1814. 7.
Mm.
Like that's unreal. Like that's historic, unbelievable. How did you even pull this off? And this is in your follow-up to your album that's supposed to be your bigger album. This is supposed to be the album that you can't beat. And then she comes with this. So it's like what? Rhythm Nation, Miss You Much, Escapade, All Right, Come Back to Me. We talked about Black Cat, Love Will Never Do Without You. Like we talked about all of it, and it makes sense because all of those things were HIT hits, like unreal. So, and again, lots of iconic imagery and videos, and she's got a different look on almost every video, like showing the that you could be more than one thing. And again, that's rebellion, right? Like to say, okay, I'm a woman and I don't gotta look the same every time. I don't gotta wear the same stuff. I don't gotta pull the same tricks to get you to look at me a certain way. I can have my hair different. I can be mean. I can be aggressive. I can be tender. I can be all these different things because I'm a person. Like I'm a
Yes.
person more than anything else. I'm a person first. And I have all these different thoughts. I'm thinking about the world. I'm thinking about myself. I'm trying to manage relationships because no matter what's going on in my life, I'm still a person trying to get these relationships together. I'm changing husband, different boyfriend, all that different stuff. And I'm singing about it. And I'm not being shy. Like I'm being autobiographical, right? And it's like, yeah, Diana Ross gave us some of that. We had some rebels before her, but like to do it with this type of style with one hit album under your belt, and people questioning you in all these different ways. Like it's a lot of bold and great work happening here for sure.
And in 1993, we're going to get anytime, any place.
Don't even start me.
That's my Janet Jackson, guys.
Yeah,
I
and
like
that
that.
crazy album cover too, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know the album cover. I just know the song in the video.
Woo. And that's the way love goes too. Yeah, I
That's
mean
the
we could
way
probably
love
do
goes.
we could
See,
have a
that's
whole
where I
nother ep
come
on
in.
that. Okay.
That's where I was like, oh, hey, look at this. Whoa, wow. This isn't just on. Like, no, I'm specifically watching this. Yeah, this was, you know what? She was showing again, like, okay, and now this is how you could be a woman in the 90s. Like, boom, I set the tone for the 80s. Now I'm showing you how it looks in this season of my life.
Yes. Like
Wow.
people
Yeah.
had a chance to grow with her.
Yep.
And so it's just like the people who know really know. And the people who appreciate it really appreciate it. And so she's given a lot of people a lot of templates and a lot of excitement. And you can hear a lot of the future female artists and just artists in general that see what she did and how it worked for her. And they've been trying to replicate as much as they can. They've been using her path as an excuse to try to spread their wings and try to find their Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and find their iconic sounds to repeat across ballads or across up tempo things. And like, how do you pull that off, right? And a bunch of artists since her have tried, varying results, maybe done really well, but it's really, really tough to imagine music without this Janet Jackson run. She's huge, man.
She's huge. Yeah, this is, wow. Yeah. I really think there's about to be this reevaluation, and a lot of us are going to go, why did we not see this person in 08, 09, 2012, 2013, 2020, 2026? Like, what's going on? Wait, what, why? Huh?
Yeah. I
So,
mean, maybe shenanigans. I mean, you think she went into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2019.
yeah.
So the flowers came, but I don't know whether it's just more of her being more protective of her peace.
Yes.
Obviously, you can imagine if you're the sister to Michael Jackson, you could know what it looks like when somebody doesn't have peace and
Mm-hmm.
every little thing they do gets scrutinized and harassed to the hilt. And she went through that as well, even before the Super Bowl thing. But obviously, the Super Bowl thing
Mm-hmm. I'm
was a
very
major
upset about
moment.
that.
But that was like '04,
Was that in Houston?
2004.
Was that in
I
Houston? That was in
I believe
Houston.
so. That was
Yeah,
in Houston. Yeah.
it was in Houston. Yeah. Guys, you know what? Yeah, when you're looking at like these pop stars on our run right now, man, Janet Jackson was doing that on a, like, we kind of have a choice now to go like, man, this person is on what the young people say, a generational run. But it could be on some track where we all don't have to see it. Man, Janet Jackson was on these runs, and it was like, hey guys, it was only 7 channels. It was only 9 channels. We all saw it. There was no,
Yeah.
I choose not to watch this one. No, you saw it.
Oh, you saw it. Think about Miss You Much. Miss You Much got the Thriller treatment or like the Michael Jackson Bad treatment. Like, we're going to preempt the show and we're going to do like a 30-minute thing to roll out this video because it was her being gone for 2 years off the charts and coming back. And it's like, what is she going to do now? And what is her look going to be? And what kind of sound is she going to have? Is it going to be Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis again? Can they do it again? Are they going to go back to the well? Do they have a new sound? What are they going to do? And like I've seen the documentary where, things were tense when they were working on that album because they're trying to figure out how do they like skin this cat again? Like how do they do this again? And man, they figured it out. I guess whatever argument they had, they needed to have it, and it worked out.
Last thoughts about Miss You Much, Janet Jackson,
Well, we talk,
1989.
uh, yeah, we thank our listeners a lot, man. And it's really great when we get that feedback. And one of my friends, and met him through my dad years ago. I'll reach out to him. He'll reach out to me a few times a year. And he talked about, I told him about our podcast, and he went and listened to it. And he said, man, you guys ought to do Janet Jackson, Miss You Much. I want to really, that's my jam, and I want to know what y'all think about that. And I was like, well, okay. Listener requests. We need to get some more of those going, by the way. But like we got one. And I was like, man, I want to do justice to this, on behalf of Daryl Artisan, because he listened to the show, number one, but number two, he came back with a song. And I was like, man, this is a good place to jump in for Janet. And so that's kind of what led me to this. We talk about how we try to, this is a little bit more about how the sausage is made, right? Like I'll have a list of songs that I think, man, we got to do an episode about this song or that song, or something will come up into my life and I'll think, oh man, you know what? It's a shame we haven't done this yet. And then I'll hit you up and say, well, I don't want to do this song. Let's do this song now. But yeah, Miss You Much was given to us. So thanks you again to Daryl Artisan for that. But man, it's what a gift this is. This is a huge record from a huge artist that I think sometimes we talk about this. We have these big artists. When you look back and see how big these songs are, it's like, yeah, that was obvious, right? But it's like, no, it wasn't obvious. And like you say, how are we messing it up now? How are we not giving her the credit she deserves now? Well, we weren't good at it back then either. Like
Wow.
even as a kid, it was more like these videos are amazing. These songs are jamming. They're everywhere. I mean, before we hit record, I talked about Pleasure Principle. Like that video would run like that would run my life. Like I watched that video in its entirety every single time because it's just such a fascinating watch. Because it's her in this weird warehouse jumping around by herself, and she's dancing, but it doesn't look like full choreography. It looks like she's just kind of dancing. But of course, now we know, looking back, that's not what it was. But as a kid, it's just like people don't make videos like this. This is not normal. Why is she doing this? And who cares though? I like the song, I like the video. And like she had a bunch of videos that kind of fell into that range. You talk about the chair and all that, and she did the same thing with Miss You Much. She had an elaborate chair thing going on that video too. So it's like she's pulled off so many great things. And we're just talking mainly about just talking about Control and Rhythm Nation, but it's like a weight there's more with her career. We can get into that on another episode some other time. But Miss You Much is it's supreme, man. It's really a great record.
Yeah, the Pleasure Principle video where let's say for all intents and purposes, the chair is, turned backward and she has one foot on the seat and one foot on the top of like where your back would be, and she leans forward in that chair. I did that dozens of times because of Janet Jackson. I'm surprised I didn't injure myself. And I forgot about the chair thing. That was a renaissance in like dance routines. I forgot about that. People were doing that stuff a lot. And like what I was telling you before we hit record, how I think a lot of this Janet Jackson stuff that turned into like in the suburbs. I'm taking hip hop dance. I'm taking hip hop. Like, what do you mean you're taking hip hop? Like I'm dance. Like I got me in a dance class. I'm in hip hop dance class. Like, oh, no. Janet Jackson did that.
She did, man. Yes, she did.
Ooh. So where can the lovely listeners reach us? Because hey, maybe they might make some suggestion. We might pull that up in the queue, because when it was one of my weeks, as it were, I was like, well, hey, well then let's just plug in this Miss You Much by Janet Jackson. That sounds like a swell idea.
Yeah,
How can they
very
reach
much
us?
so. man, you can go to the comment fields on places where stuff is posted. So you can do YouTube, Amazon. Uh, we can do ontherecordjams@gmail.com. We can go to Facebook, OTRJ on Blue Sky. We have On the Record Jams on the X still as well. So, man, there's a lot of places for us to receive that feedback, get some song suggestions, and let us do a deep dive on some things. And again, I always like to thank you, AJ, for putting some songs into my orbit. In other cases, putting them back in my orbit and give me a chance and an excuse to listen to some different things. And I try to do the same thing for you with the songs I pick. But if our listeners can get in on that action, we'd really appreciate it. Because, I mean, Miss You Must is a really good example of what can happen if somebody throws you a bone, throws you something to listen to. Because maybe we would have kept messing up too, but who knows when it would have been if we would have gotten to the right Janet Jackson song until we had it, literally dropped into our inbox.
I love it, guys. So until next time, keep your lamplight trimmed and burning.
And keep on jamming.
Anytime, any place.